Hi there, my name is Amanda, and this is going to be my Pan Those Eyeshadows update for the month of May. If this is the first video of the Pan Those Eyeshadows project that you are seeing from me, I do have a playlist that I will link up above so that you can catch up with my progress. This project was originally created by Alexi, but there's a lot of people who have put their own twist on it so that they can make the project whatever they need it to be. Let's just get into the progress this month. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did last month. I'm going to go from the least exciting progress to the most exciting progress. So the first palette that I want to talk about is my Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. This is a brand new palette to me. It just came into my collection in April, and I rolled in the shade Karma last month. So I am not going to put a picture up of where I was before because the shadow, if anything, it had only been swatched. It was brand new. This shade has some disturbance in it. It doesn't really have a dip forming at all. When I swatch it, it comes off as to me, it comes off as a like mid-toned pinky brownie shade. But once this is blended out, I feel like this is a reddish pink. Red toned eyeshadows kind of scare me. It's requiring a little more effort on my part to reach into this palette, just for the fact that I do want to be reaching into this shade when I reach into the palette. So that's kind of a bummer. However, I did use this eyeshadow 3 times this past month, and I actually like it with this shade Supernova. You can see a lot more progress in that shade than over here in the matte shade, but I'm having a little trouble with these like glittery shimmer shades not creasing on my lids. I've tried glitter glue and that normally helps me, but for some reason these shades still are creasing after about like 5 to 6 hours, but I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure this out. The next shade that I want to talk about comes from my Too Faced Sweet Peach palette, and the shade that I was working on was Cobbler. So I'll go ahead and put a picture up of where I was before, and this is where I am today. So I hope you can see there is a little bit of a difference between last month. Last month I would say that I had some disturbance in this shade, but this month there is a dip starting to form, so progress is being made. I did use this eyeshadow 4 times this past month. I used it 3 times last month, so I've only used it 7 times overall. The way that I have been using it this past month, I have been using it as a one and done type of shade. I really like doing that for when I want something that is not my eyeshadow to be the focus of my makeup look, whether I want it to be more blush heavy or to have my lip be the focus. This is going to be one of those shades that may stay in for quite a while, but it's good to have that fallback shade here. The next shade that I want to talk about comes from my ABH Carli Bybel palette, and the shade that I was working on was Mandala. So I'm not going to put a picture up of where I was before because again, this is a brand new palette to my collection. I just got it in April, and the shade had only ever been swatched, if even swatched. This is where I am today, so I think you can see there is a dip going on in this shade, and I did use it 4 times this past month. And the way that I used it the first time, I wanted to see if it was good as a just shimmer shade on the lid. I felt like in that look that there were gaps in my eyeshadow, that it wasn't like an opaque kind of shimmer shade, so I thought maybe this was designed to be more of a topper shade. So that is the way that I have been using it the other 3 times, and I really like doing that. I did pair it with Libra here, and this is a very muted shade, but when you put this on top, I feel like it brings the shimmer to life. Though I do want to try it again as a just on the lid shade, and maybe I wasn't using enough of it, and that's why there were gaps in my eyeshadow. I don't quite know yet, but I'm excited to continue playing around with it. The next shade that I want to talk about comes from my ABH Soft Glam palette, and the shade that I was working on was Bronze. So I will put a picture up of where I was before, and this is where I am today. So I hope you can see that there's a pan going on near the corner there. This is the first pan, I think. Yes, this is the first pan that I hit this month. I did only use this shade 5 times, which I was a little surprised that it only took that many times to hit pan in it. But this is kind of like a cream to powder formula, and it is a little bit kind of like flaky, chunky. I did try to press back the chunks into the palette so that I wasn't wasting anything, but it still only took 5 uses to hit pan. The way that I really enjoyed wearing it was with kind of like a look that I'm wearing today. I really liked pairing it with orange tones. With the warm tones, it just created something, I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but it just brought about like this cozy warmth to the shade, and I just really enjoyed using it that way. The next palette that I want to talk about is my Colourpop Rearranged All Matte palette, and the shade that I was working on was a no-name mid-toned orange shade. So I will go ahead and put a picture up of where I was before, and this is where I am today. So you can see there's a little sliver of pan in there, and for how small it is, I'm still counting it. So this shade I used in my look today, and I hit pan this morning. So I used this shade 6 additional times this month. I did use it 4 times last month, so it only took 10 uses to hit pan, but there was a little bit of usage on there before. I think part of why I hit pan as quickly as I did, well, one, it's kind of like the main color that you're seeing in this look, and when I did use this shade, I used quite a bit of it. But this shade is also pretty soft, and it's not like a true matte. It's like a satin matte shade. So now this is what my palette is looking like. You can see that little pan in the blue shade and a little pan now in that orange shade. And the last shade that I want to talk about, I'm so excited. It comes from the Colourpop Flutterby palette, and I had replaced the shade Lush last month with the shade Just Imagine, and I will go ahead and put a picture up of where I was before, and this is where I am today. This is the shade here, and I have that little pan going on right in the center. I'm so excited to roll this palette out. I've had this palette within the project for I think about 3 months. I hit pan in it on the 19th, so just a couple days ago. I love these kinds of tones. I've loved almost every single look that I have done with this palette. I also am just a little antsy. I like to have variety in my eyeshadow palettes, in my looks that I do. I used this shade 13 times this past month, and I did use it once before I officially announced that I would be working on this shade, so I used it about 14 times, and I used it twice as a lid shade. I think it's super beautiful for that if you want something just very light and pretty, but the main way that I used it was as a highlighting shade. Because of those 3 pans that I hit this week, I have 30 pans in my collection, which is an achievement. I'm just so proud of myself that because I've tailored this project to my needs, I have been successful, and I've hit, I think it's now 21 pans in just these past 5 months. So I now have pan in 30 shades, which means that my pan percentage has gone from 9.3% last month to 10.3% this month. So I've also officially hit my unofficial goal of hitting 10% of my collection showing pan. Alright, so with those 3 new pans, I did roll in 3 new eyeshadows this month to work on. The first shadow that I picked, I decided to pick the palette and to pick the shade myself. The reason why I did that, I was inspired by a video that I did. It was a video talking about my most used palettes of 2020 so far. And when I was gathering the data for that, I realized that there were 2 eyeshadow palettes that I have not used at all in 2020 yet. And then I realized that one of those palettes has been featured in the project, but I've never hit pan in the palette because of this project. So I decided to take a little creative liberty and choose this palette to be featured, so that every single one of my palettes will have pan because of this project. It is my Rearranged Yes Please palette. So if you've watched my videos since the beginning, you will know that I did have big cocktails in this project before. It was an orange shade that was rolled into the project in like January, and I love orange eyeshadow, but I don't love it so much when I'm thinking more cool tones. I just ended up never reaching for this shade. So I decided to bring this palette into the project. And the shade that I decided to go with is one that I'm actually kind of scared of. It's going to be a challenge for me, but it is going to be this shade right here. So the reason why I picked it, I saw a palette that was released. I think it's from Viseart. There's one shade in particular in that palette that I was like, oh, I would love to get that palette just for that one shade. Then I thought about it and I'm like, wait, don't I have something like that in my collection? And then I thought of this shade. It's kind of like a twofer why I decided to pick this palette to be featured again in this project, but this is going to be the shade that I will be focusing on for this next month. The next shade that I rolled into the project, this is when I hit pan in the shade Just Imagine, and the palette that I rolled in was my ABH Norvina palette, and I was so excited to get this palette. And the shade that I rolled in is my first kind of like gimme shade. It's one that I will use in every single look, and it is the shade Base right here. I have used this shade twice now. I did use it today. I pretty much always set my eyeshadows before I do my makeup look. So these are very easy for me to think about and to reach into every day. When I was kind of focusing on Tempera in my Soft Glam palette before I ever did this project, that shadow took a lot longer to hit pan on than I thought it would. So I think it's going to be similar, and I think this will be in the project for at least a couple months. All right, and the last shade that I rolled in this morning when I hit pan in this orangey shade that I'm wearing today. I feel like I jinxed myself. In the last video that I posted, I had hit pan in a shimmer shade within this palette, and I had said that the matte shades are going to take a very long time to hit pan in. I said that I would be excited to reach into this palette again in the future for those matte shades, and I didn't realize it was going to come so soon. But the palette that I'm talking about is my Jaclyn Hill palette. And oh my gosh, something to remember, I mentioned earlier that red shades kind of scare me. Guess which shade in this palette got rolled into the project? You would be right. It is this matte red, and it's called Hunts. And I'm very scared of it. I don't know, I just kind of feel defeated right now already. There's pretty much no usage. I will put it on the screen right now, but I mean, this palette has been touched. This shade has been touched. I know it has, but it just looks like it has been swatched. There's no kind of dips or anything going on there. I don't know. I think it's just this is gonna push me out of my comfort zone, which is a good thing. That's kind of what this project, like a little side benefit to this project, is that I'm not just hitting pan in shades, but I'm also getting use out of shades that I would still use, but maybe just not as often. I'm interested to see how I'm going to make this palette work for me. So this is my new color story for the month of June. And oh my gosh, I feel like this is such a dramatic change from last month, and it's just because these 2 warmer tone shades. I think I do want to work on Cobbler a little bit more. I would like to focus on my lipsticks a little bit more. I think this will be a good shade for just having something quick and easy to do, and then having like a bolder lip on. I do kind of want to work on Mandala a bit too. It does have a pretty good dip already, I guess we'll go with trying to use Karma a bit more, like maybe like 4 to 5 times, I think would be a good goal for me. Just because I do still want to have a pan in every palette, or these are the only shades within palettes that do not have pan in them, so it would be nice to reach that panning goal, but I also want to focus on figuring out how to use the shimmer shades so that they don't crease on my eyes as much. We will see. I can do this. Give me some encouragement down below. I can do this. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go if you like the Pan Those Eyeshadows project, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!